to the question. We are going to distribute the negatives. So yes, Devin just asked me, do we change the sign out here? We do. We make this a plus. And when you distribute it, you distribute negative 2, which gives me what? Negative 2y minus 8. Okay, now, that's the hard part. What's the last step? What's left? You need to add them up. Just like here, we had 15 20s plus 14 20s. You got to add them together. Good way. So the denominator's not changing. You're just going to copy the common denominator down. And then so I just add from highest power to lowest power. I see a 3y squared. And then add up all the y's. 1 plus 9 minus 2. That would be 8 y's. And then add up your constant numbers. 3 minus 8 is negative 5. More than likely, you're done. Amen. Once in a while, miracles happen. And the stuff you get on top will actually factor and cancel with something on the bottom. So you have to at least stop and look at it and go, could I factor the top and get one of these factors that's on the bottom? No. If you can't cancel, don't bother to do it. Yeah, you'll discover it actually looks like 3 and 5 might make 8. There's a possibility, but if you actually start playing with it, you won't get the signs to work out right here. So in this case, we're good right there. But at least stop and kind of eyeball it. Usually, if it's something that will factor, it'll be very obvious. You can go farther. Okay, we love that? Sure, why not? Okay. So, that clock is, yeah. That clock is right. No, we have one more problem. I hesitate to tell you the name of these. Well, actually, these have their own real name. Yep. Okay, it's actually everything we just did, but in one problem. They are fractions in a fraction. Big. However, first we're going to do it with numbers because once again I need to make sure you realize why you're doing what you're doing. So we're going to do it with simple numbers. If I said take a half plus 2/3 divided by a fifth plus a half, how would you simplify that without a calculator?
I'd start with making common denominator.
Yeah. Are you allowed, with division we were multiplying by the reciprocal. Are you allowed to flip the bottom over when it's 2 separate fractions? No, you can never. It's got to be all one fraction. You have to add it together before you can multiply by a reciprocal. So you must get the top added together and the bottom added together. So what would add the top?
3 6 plus 4 6.
Okay, I'll buy that. 3 6 plus 4 6, which would be how many 6? 7 6. So top's all one fraction. Do the same thing for the bottom.
2 10 plus
Yeah,
5.
and you don't have to have the same common denominator. That's fine. So this is tenths on the bottom. That'd be 2 tenths plus 5 tenths, which would be how many tenths? Then you get 7 tenths. Now you're down to one fraction top, one fraction bottom. Now you can multiply by the reciprocal, which would give us 7 6 times 10 sevenths. 7 cancel. I can take a 2 out of both of those and a 5, so I'll actually end up with 5/3. Okay. Boy, there was a day back in 5th and 6th grade when that would have been a really hard problem. Well, I'm judging off of yours because I know that my son, the 5th grader this year, has been doing fractions and fractions and fractions and fractions until he's sick of fractions. Okay. All right. Here it comes. We're ready? It's the ultimate. Now, the one thing I will say, they will be nice with these complex ones. They won't give you tons of time. Depends on whether you make me happy or not.
Well, you always got a smile on your face, so.
Okay, whoa, that's yeah, there's going to be some foiling in here. Okay. This is going to sound silly, but make sure you copy the problem right. There's nothing worse than going through one of these and then discovering you had the problem copied down wrong. I will give you as far as you attend, and by the way, remember on these, homework is graded on whether you legitimately tried to do it. That means more than one step. So if you legitimately tried to do it, you didn't come out right, that's fine. You have an error somewhere. That happens.
Don't ring.
We'll figure it out where your error went. Okay. What do I do first? I need a common denominator for the top. I got to get the top all in one fraction, and I got to get the bottom all in one fraction. Okay, I'm hearing the top is going to be x plus 2 and x minus 2. You buy that?
Yeah.
Because I have to have either 1 x plus 2, that's one quantity. You have to do it by quantities, not individual terms. So you have an x plus 2 and an x minus 2. And what do I take times, looking at this, actually I guess I needed to write two of those, sorry. I'm going to have another one out here. I'm going to have an x plus 2 and an x minus 2. What is the first fraction missing? It's got the x plus 2, it needs an x minus 2, so okay. We're timesing it, both top and bottom, by x minus 2. So I need to do what? Yeah, distribute. That's not bad. X squared minus 2x. Okay, what's the second fraction? It doesn't have the x plus 2, so I do it again. Now, when I multiply this, what would be the smart way to multiply this? Michelle's saying I should multiply it as it's a negative 3. Y'all buy that? Yes. That subtraction has to distribute eventually. You might as well do it right now. Since you're going to distribute 3, you might as well distribute negative 3. But what do I put out here between the two fractions then? If I'm going to distribute the negative, this becomes a plus. Because I'm going to take negative 3 times my terms, which is going to give me negative 3x and then what? A minus 6. Not a plus 6, a minus 6. Right there, those little things will be what get you. Now, am I done with this top section? This is where I always have people go astray. They get all this done, and then they don't add it together. You need to add all that together and make one fraction. So I'm going to have one big fraction over x plus 2 and x minus 2. Add up your like terms. What have I got? Yep, x squared minus 5x, because we got negative 2 and negative 3, minus 6. Now we're down to one fraction. We're happy with that one. Now the bottom. Do you have to have the same common denominator that you had on the top? Nope, you don't. So, okay, pick your denominator. What would you like on the bottom? All right, I need 1 x minus 2 and 1 x plus 3. And so the first fraction would be missing. What does it not have in its denominator? It does not have an x plus 3. So I'm going to times it by an x plus 3. And so I am now distributing on the top. So that'll be 3x squared plus 9x. And now I have a minus. I'm going to have another fraction. I wrote that in opposite order, but what is this one missing? Yep. It's missing the x minus 2. I wanted that in another color, though. So People tell me it helps when it's color coded.
What is your color?
Well, at least hopefully make. Now, this is where I want to talk about, this is an issue. You got a subtraction out here. It's got to distribute. Distribute. FOIL first, then distribute, or try to distribute now and then FOIL. I will tell you I see less mistakes if you FOIL first, distribute later. Because it seems like if we try to put the negative in there, well, it's still two different factors. Because my question would be, if you distribute the negative now, do you distribute to both of them or one of them? One. Just one of them. And that's the mistake people make. Particularly where this is a really easy one to FOIL. What's x plus 2 times x minus 2? Yeah, the middle terms cancel. Those are conjugates. So it is easier in this case. Go ahead and FOIL it. Make it x squared minus 4. Now come back here and go, okay, I don't want that subtraction. I'm going to change it. If I make this a plus, what's it do to those? Switches everything. Now add up your like terms. Because we got to get it down to one big fraction again. So I have x minus 2 and x plus 3. Yeah. There's 3x squared minus an x squared. That's going to be 2x squared. And there's not any other like terms, so I'm just going to have the 9x and the plus 4. So now you're down to fraction over fraction. That's the hard part. Now multiply by the reciprocal. So, okay. So x squared minus 5x minus 6, and I have x plus 2 and x minus 2. And then if I flip the bottom one over, I now have the x minus 2 and the x plus 3 up top. And I've got the 2x squared plus 9x plus 4 on the bottom. What do I do? What could I cancel? Okay, you can cancel the x minus 2's. How do you know there's not some other things that might cancel? You have to try to break those down if they'll break down. And a lot of times they will factor. So, yeah, we'd have to go, okay, x squared minus 5x minus 6, that looks possible. But darn it, I wanted it to have 2's and 3's in it since I have other 2's and 3's in my problem. But no, this one won't work. It's got to be 6 and 1. So maybe we'll get something good out of this other one. And so, you think 2x squared plus 9x plus 4? Will that unfoil? The panic alarm?
It's not mine.
Oh, car, okay. It works. Yeah, this problem is very disappointing to me because you get it all added together and I look and I see these pretty trinomials that look like, oh, they'll factor nice. I'm just going to cancel the world out. No, because I'm going to have to do 4 and 1 to get 8x and 1x. And there's not another darn thing that factors out the whole thing.
All that work for nothing.
Never for nothing. This is as simplified as it gets. That's just the way it is.
The way we leave it?
You leave it, then put it all in one fraction with just all those different factors. Unless you really have a strong desire to multiply all that back together. Okay, Stephen will be multiplying his back together, and the rest of us will not. You better steal yourself a, I know, I got a minute. You better steal yourself a calculus calculator. Well, that's awful. Boil them back together?
Not with all the variables.
Oh, with all the variables. Yours don't have the computer algebra system. So sometimes they come out nice and sometimes they don't. Sorry. The key thing there is write neatly, lots of space, be able to tell what you're doing, and beware of negative signs like no other. I swear to you, you'll come in and your problems, 90% of you, your problems will be negative signs.
Oh, yeah, that's mine. Hey, so we do both these assignments right now?